Assalamualaikum.
Hello, gorgeous.
Let's continue the last part of positioning EA. In this video, we will discuss on key concepts and benefits of EA. Enterprise architecture acts as an active planning and also steering instrument, which can be used in order to translate strategy into programs and also project. It revolves around four main components, which are principles, models, views, and also frameworks. However, we are going to discuss only three components here, which are the principles, models, and also views, while the framework will be discussed later in module 2. So before that, let's recall back what we have learned so far about stakeholder. So enterprise has many stakeholder, and any future developments of an enterprise will impact the interest of the stakeholder. So remember, a stakeholder is an individual, team, or any organization with interest in or concern relative to a system. For example, like the enterprise. Concern are those interests which pertain to the system's development, its operation, or any other aspect that is critical or otherwise important to one or more stakeholder. So in order to make decision about the enterprise future direction, normally stakeholders want to know about the impact of the direction of the future direction will have on their concern, the first one. And the second one, they want to understand the risks that involve in the current and also the future initiatives. So these three items here, the three components here is actually the concern of this stakeholder and the interest that they have in order to understand their needs of enterprise architecture. So let's look at the first component, which is principles. So principles are generally regarded as constraints on the design space for enterprise engineer. So it is an univocal understanding about what is of essential for that particular organization. According to TOGAF, principles are general rules and guidelines intended to be enduring and seldom amended. It is a good set of principles will be founded in the beliefs and values of the organization, expressed in language that the business understands and uses. So principles should be few in number, future-oriented, and endorsed and championed by senior management. They provide a firm foundation for making architecture and planning decisions, framing policies, procedures and standards, and supporting resolution of contradictory situations. Considering the definitions of principles, so we can identify three typical perspectives on principles. So the first one, principle as inherent laws. So this refers to the property of a system that can be observed and validated. For example, like the law of gravity, the relativity theory, law of requisite variety, torque. So those are what we call as the inherent laws, the laws that are exist, that has exist like a long way before we found it. And the second principles is the principle as imposed laws. So principle as imposed law refer to properties of a system that can be validated. So the first one can be observed and validated, but this one can be validated. Alright, for example, like traffic laws, we have policies and regulations within organization. For example, like customer is always right. So those are basically what we call as principle as imposed laws. And then the third one we have is guidelines. So guidelines are property of a system that are specific enough to provide guidance in order to have or to operate okay, to make it fit within the borders set out by imposed law. For normally refer to the use of mechanism. For example, in order for you to drive a car, what are the things that you need to do? So that is some kind of guideline there. So, in line with the definition of enterprise architecture that we have in class, we will primarily focus on the use of the two perspectives, okay, which is the imposed principles as imposed laws and also guidelines. The second concept of key concept of EA is models. So, in general, models are a purposeful abstraction of reality. In colloquial use, in the context of enterprise engineering, so when we say model, it is always equated to graphical diagram. So this is because most model used in, for example, like software development, business process re-engineering, are graphical models. But models, however, do not necessarily have to be graphical. So in enterprise architecting, we have a lot of graphical and also non-graphical models which are needed to express the enterprise architecture. So the set of required models span over multiple dimensions of focus, goal, and purpose. So we have a few examples of models. Okay, so the first one is models that are differing in the levels of realization. For example, like from conceptual via logical to physical model. And then differing in the aspect of transformation from contextual, why, via design, where to the actual transformation on how. And then we also have different aspects of an enterprise, from goals of services, product and processes to IT, and the last one, differing levels of aggregation. So from enterprise level to the level of specific processes or any application. So different levels, different groupings. So everything can be represented through a model. Now, when using enterprise architecture as a planning and also steering instrument, so this instrument should reflect complexity. So complexity of the execution of an enterprise's strategy. So we know that it involves many processes, a lot of departments, and a lot of information system involved. So, as a result, it is almost undoable to make one single univocal and comprehensive set of models which can represent and can be used for all people concerned. So why do we need different views based on the stakeholder concern? This is because in order to obtain the cooperations of those stakeholders. So a view is a representation of a whole system from the perspective of a related set of concern. So one particular view can be represented or can show the interest of a certain set of stakeholder. So this put the notion of a view close to the notion of a model. So we actually treat a model as being a special kind of view. So model is a purposeful abstraction of reality that cannot be formally derived from another model without changing the way in which the model represents the domain. So a view is a purposeful abstraction of a reality that is derived formally from one or more models without changing the way in which the models represent the domain. Right? So now model can be equal as view, but not each view is a model. Stachowicz in Opland distinguishes between three different model features. So the first one is the mapping features, concerned with the fact that a model is based on an original object. The second one is the reduction feature, which deals with the fact that a model reflects a relevant selection of an original properties. part of it, and the pragmatic feature, which is concerned with the usability of the model as a placeholder for the original with respect to some purpose. So now creating a models mean creating or adjusting the mapping feature of a specific model. So in creating views, one can make changes to the reduction and pragmatic features without changing the mapping feature. So if you change the mapping feature, so that's mean you are creating another model. But in order to create a view, so you just adjusting the reduction and also the pragmatic feature. Now, there are four typical examples of views in EA. There are business view, IT view, governance view, and also security view. So in business view, one would define the integrated structure of the overall business itself. Business architecture support business change with a more holistic perspective. So this approach is becoming more important with the move toward the service-oriented architecture at the business level. So in an IT view, one would define and describe the structure and also relationship of IT systems, including the way IT supports the enterprise to achieve its business goal. In a governance view, it would address the full range of governance from business governance in order to manage overall business process, formal or informal, to organizational and system governance and also IT systems management capabilities. So in security view, addresses the full range of security from business and information security to IT security. It also addresses the required security for organizational and business related services. It is often linked to the governance aspect to address the security management part. Now let's look at the benefits of EA. So we apply EA in order to overcome the shortcoming that we have looked before. So an EA as a whole is used in a number of different ways in order to guide, direct, and also manage an enterprise. So EA is a basis for decision making and planning, and it can govern the identification, selection, and development of standard. So EA also a mechanism for managing change within the enterprise, and EA enables effective communication about the enterprise. Based on the needs and challenges, 7 key applications for EA as a means are identified. So the first one, EA is used as a situation description for goal or cost analysis to investigate problems or shortcomings in an existing situation. So this involves creation of a shared understanding of the existing situation. So the intangible elements that we have here. The second one is strategic direction. So to express and motivate the future direction of an enterprise, as well as investigate and evaluate different alternatives. So this also involves the creation of shared conceptualization of possible future direction and shared agreement for the selected alternatives. So the third one is gap analysis. So gap analysis, EA can be used to identify key problems, challenges, any issues, impediments, any chances or any threats. So remember the SWOT analysis. So as well as make well-motivated design decisions which enables a move from the current situation into the desired situation. So the fourth usage of EA is for tactical planning. So tactical planning use enterprise architecture to provide boundaries and identify any intermediary steps for the transformation of the enterprise toward the articulated strategic direction. So in this context, EA is used as a planning tool, make the realization of a strategy more tangible. Next one, we have operational planning. So what will be the difference between strategy planning, tactical planning, and operational planning? So strategy planning took 3 to 5 years. It is for the whole business, so meaning that it is a long-term strategy. So in tactical planning, it took only 1 year or less So it follows the strategy, and it is for short range time period, while operational planning linking the strategy to tactical, which describe the milestone condition for success and explain how strategic planning will be put into operation during a given operational period. So that's the difference between strategy planning, tactical planning, and operational planning. So EA can be used in order to identify all this planning. So next one, we have selection of partial solutions. So use EA as a means in order to select select one or more standard solution or packages that are to become part of the solution, and decide to outsource an entire business process or service to another enterprise. So we can use the EA in order to do this. So for you to have the decision, you can identify the situation and maybe provide the partial solution. And the last one is for solution architecture. So this difference with a selection of partial solution in the sense that this one covers all the process. So it used the EA to create the high level definition of an actual step in the enterprise transformation as it will be realized in the context of a specific project. Right, so we have 7 keys application for EA. So which one can the organization use? So they can use any of this key application, or they want to use it. It depends on the organization. If they want to choose one only, they can do that. And then let's say the first thing that they do is to use it for situation description, and then maybe use it for strategic direction. So that's the way the EA can be applied into the enterprise. Okay, so these are the references that you can refer to. So please read, especially the Opland. Okay, so this one. Okay, because a lot of definition comes from a lot of description comes from this book. So please do read this book, especially the chapters, the parts that we have discussed in Module 1, because who knows that the topic might come out in your quiz. Now that we have completed our Module 1, so I hope everyone is ready for our Quiz 1 next week. So thank you everyone for paying attention. Assalamualaikum.